wedding cake? DIY or professional? Hey my lovelies, and welcome back to my channel. My name's Donna and this is Bride-to-be TV, the place to be if you are trying to plan your wedding and want to create a strong marriage. Now this week we are talking wedding cake. Very important, I love cake, and in my past I have actually tried my hand at a bit of professional cake making. Now, there are some very strict do's and don'ts when it comes to cakes, and you may think that cake is something that you want to skip on your day, and if it is, that's fine. You can go down the route of maybe having something like a cheese wheel cake, completely made of cheese, or something similar. Not on the actual cake route if you don't like cake. So if you don't like cake and you're not planning on having cake, this video is not for you. You can stop watching now. But if you do like cake and you like the idea of having that traditional cake to cut on your wedding day, I'm going to give you a few tips of why you should go pro when it comes to your cake. Now, one of the things that I've always said, regardless of what kind of business I've been involved with, is that until you are in the business, you really don't understand how much it costs to get to that end result. I said it with my wedding photography, and I said it when I was baking cakes. Especially, an ingredient list for a cake can stretch from the basic of around £30 upwards to over 100, maybe more, depending on the intricacies of the cake. Now, a basic bog standard cake that's covered in icing, nothing too technical, you are looking at a cost of around £30 just to get the ingredients for the cake, just to get the icing for the cake, and that's before you've done any of the design work, before you've put the cake in the oven and baked it, any of that. So you have got £30 before you even start. So for those of you out there going £60 for a cake, that's quite a lot. Actually, £30 of that is what is being spent, and then you're paying, well, it can take anywhere from maybe an hour and a half to 3-4 hours to do a basic kind of cake that's not got too much intricacy to it. So if it's taking 3 hours from start to finish to do your cake, then that's £10 an hour, and that's not a huge amount. So that's my first thing to sort of say to you is that, you know, you may actually have your jaw drop when you look at wedding cakes that are 3-4 tiers and have intricate designs on them. But the amount of time that it takes a cake maker to do that, and the amount of cost for the ingredients, even though they're buying it on bulk, it's still not making a huge impact to the bottom line of how much it costs just to get that cake in and out of the oven and made, regardless of the time it takes. So what I want you to avoid doing is asking your friend who bakes cakes just for themselves to bake a cake if they're not really trained in cake making. And this is because a lot of the times you will find that people don't understand how cakes, especially tiered cakes, are structured and constructed. So I'm going to show you a cake here which is a complete and utter disaster, and that is because it's not boarded. And boards are these thin cardboard circles or squares that go underneath the cake and then on top of the tier. And the magic actually comes in the little sticks that people will put into the tier, and then the cake board will sit on top of those sticks. You can't see them, it's the magic, and it is what structures the cake. Now, if the person making your cake doesn't know about these acrylic sticks, doesn't know where to get them from, doesn't know how to cut them, doesn't know how to insert them into a cake, and doesn't realise that you need another board on top of that to put the next layer on, you are going to end up with a cake that looks like this. And nobody wants that. Equally, somebody who is good at baking a cake isn't necessarily great at decorating a cake. So if you went to somebody whose cakes you've tasted and you think are amazing, you say, here, I want this Tiffany box kind of wedding cake, which is very, very structured, very simple lines, and you get this on your wedding day, you're going to be disappointed. And that's because they don't realise that the medium that baker is working with is not butter icing, it's not soft icing. They're using probably royal icing to get those squares with the right angles and getting it so sharp. The other thing to remember is somebody who is not used to baking cakes on a large scale may not be able to upscale their cake making abilities. So making a 6-inch round cake is very different from making a 14-inch square cake. And the technique of how you mix the batter and how that makes the cake rise is different. So they may not be able to upscale it. Something else that cake bakers who are not professionals might not realise is that when you show them a cake and you say, this is what I want, they don't realise what medium that the baker who originally made the cake was working with. So in this example, this is a princess cake and it has got these turrets. And if we see the disaster version, which if you ask me, those turrets do not look like turrets, they look like something else. This baker has used fondant icing to make these turrets. That is not what the original baker would have used. The original baker has used a clay-based icing that actually you would mould around a form of the turret and it would go rock hard. It is edible, but it's fragile and breakable, and it will fit that mould and it will hold that shape. Whereas this is the DIY baker has used fondant icing. It's not hollow, it's a thick lump of fondant icing stuck on top of the turret, and it doesn't have the elegant look that the original has. And if you are not a baker, you do not know these things. And even though I am telling you these things, that doesn't mean if you show this video to a home baker, they're going to go, oh yeah, I know what she means, I'm going to be able to do that for you. Don't you worry. You do not want to risk your cake looking awful because you're not going to want to cut it, you're not going to want it in your pictures. So that's going to be a waste of money paying somebody to make the cake on the side. If you're going for something like cupcakes, that might be something that you can get away with going to your friend. If you've already seen them make beautiful cupcakes, then that might be an option for you. But if you want a traditional tiered cake, or you want a fairly complicated designed cake or coloured icing, then you really need to go to a pro. And here is a prime example of why you need to go to a pro if you want your image of your cake to look the way the image you give your cake maker is. For example, this cake is 3 tiers. Now, maybe not your idea of a wedding cake, but maybe this family had a big car enthusiast in it and they really wanted this cake. Well, black tires is a lot of work. And the original baker would have used black fondant icing to create this. And the DIY version, I can tell you exactly what they've done here. They have used white icing and black food colouring, black maybe colour paste, but they have used a colouring to try and colour white icing black, and that never works. It's a very long process and you never get it to look black. You get this silvery grey colour, which is not what that couple would have asked for when they asked for a repeat of the original cake. So go to a professional, even if you're only going to have like a top tier and then cupcakes or something like that. Go to a professional, talk them through what it is that you want, and remember that every time you ask them to do something else, that is extra hours or extra molds, extra tools, extra materials that they're going to have on hand to make that cake. So it will all add into the cost. So when you look at a cake and you're saying, that's going to cost around £450 for a 3-tier cake that looks like that, I hope you will go, ah, that's a good price for that cake, because I know it's going to stand up on my wedding day. So let me know in the comments below what you're thinking of when it comes to your wedding cake. Are you going to have one? Are you going to have a non-traditional cake? Or are you going to get a friend to do it? Or will you go down the pro route? Let me know in the comments below and we will have a chat. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel so that you can get notified when more videos come out. And I shall see you next week. Bye for now.